This video is dedicated to Spartan Elite43. You can see him there in the USS Wooster, divisioned with a Yamato and a Hakuryu. I, of course, am playing the Khabarovsk, legendary tier Soviet mini-cruiser, although the game does insist that it is in fact a destroyer. This game happened because Spartan, for whatever reason, was doing a 12-hour stream of World of Warships Legends. I have no idea how anybody can do that, but GG's to you, Spartan. I certainly couldn't. And anyway, while Spartan was doing this 12-hour stream, he was inviting people to join him in the games via count-ins. So obviously I jumped on that opportunity, and we ended up in the same team. But here's the thing. As soon as Spartan saw me in the Khabarovsk, he had some comments to make. He said something along the lines of, "Oh, I don't know how this game is gonna go, because we've got Xarkun here in a destroyer that's not very good at being a destroyer." And what he means by that is the Khabarovsk is not very good at capping, which is one of the essential functions of a destroyer. It's especially not good with the way I play it, because I'm using Anton Gurin as my commander, with Anton Gurin's sidestep skill that gives me an extra 10% range, plus I've got another 10% range on the main battery guns from the range mod in the 4th slot, and then like another 5% range because of Rumble being 1 inspiration on Anton Gurin. So I've got the guns on the Khabarovsk ranging out to over 15 kilometers if I use the Epic Booster of Battle Propensity flag, and the concealment on the thing is really bad. You might actually call it trash. 6.9 kilometers by sea. So in such a conspicuous destroyer with such long gun range, it really doesn't excel at going into capture circles and taking them with brute force in the way an American destroyer, for example, would. The gearing at the legendary tier is much better at cap contesting than the Khabarovsk. And I think Spartan's a little bit mistaken when he implies that I shouldn't play it the way I do, because the Khabarovsk and the Russian destroyers generally cannot fulfill the same role as, say, the American line of destroyers. If you're playing a Gearing or a Fletcher or any of the lower-tier American destroyers, you often do want to get into the cap circles pretty early on because you're fairly stealthy. You can sit there taking the capture circles, and if any destroyer tries to get in there with you, and you spot them, your guns reload very, very quickly, and you can shred those enemy destroyers in short order. The Khabarovsk has much slower reload on its guns, and so do the Russian destroyers generally. They also tend to have poor turret traverse at the lower tiers, exceptionally poor turret traverse in some cases, and beyond that, while they are fast, they tend to have very big turning circles, and the rudder shift on the Khabarovsk in particular is absolute trash, even though I've spec'd into it with both steering gears mods in the 2nd and 3rd slots. It's still something like 5 seconds. So what that means is the Khabarovsk is, at least in close DD versus DD knife fight engagements, a bit of a klutz. It can't maneuver like an American destroyer can. It's susceptible to torpedoes, and therefore, you really don't want to get it close to the enemy destroyers you're fighting. In fact, you want to be as far away from those destroyers as you possibly can, because destroyers that aren't the Khabarovsk, they A, don't tend to have as much range on their main battery guns as the Khabarovsk. B, they don't have as good of shell velocity as the Khabarovsk, so their shells take much longer to reach the target. And C, they're not as fast as the Khabarovsk. So the idea is you engage enemy destroyers by kiting away from them. The further you get away from them, the more difficult it is for them to hit you. But conversely, it's easy for you to hit them because you have Soviet ballistics and long-range guns. So we started this game by not entering the Bravo cap. Why didn't we enter the Bravo cap? 2 reasons. Number 1 is that Khabarovsk out there. He was near the Bravo cap at least. He didn't end up taking it, but we saw him there earlier on and he was spotted. And also, there's an aircraft carrier in this game. If we had gone into the Bravo cap immediately, we could have been spotted by the Khabarovsk, or alternatively, we might have been spotted by the CV. And in that case, there was a Musashi, or not a Musashi, a Yamato and a Montana, very, very close to the cap, each of which could have shot us if we were inside the cap and we were spotted. And thus, to avoid that, we chose not to enter the cap right away. Instead, we went out on the flank, we did some spotting, and we did some farming of the Yamato and some other ships with our main battery guns. Also got a good couple hits in on the enemy Khabarovsk. But now that we know the enemy Khabarovsk is somewhere over in that direction and nowhere near this cap, we feel a lot more confident with entering the cap. We've got a friendly destroyer on the other side of the map who's inside Charlie. Unfortunately, that's already been flipped by the Reds, and I don't think that destroyer is going to be successful in taking the cap because he is being harassed by the aircraft carrier, which only seals my decision to enter this cap right now when I do. Of course, we bump into the island there and get slowed down. I don't know who keeps putting those things there, but I appreciate them, because islands are good for the Khabarovsk, even if I'm blind and I hit them. In any case, we're about to enter the Bravo cap. Nobody is around to stop us. I don't know what happened to the enemy Khabarovsk, but he's floating off somewhere. He might still be in that smoke screen over there shooting his guns, which is just fine. That's going to allow me to take this capture circle completely uncontested. We get the Witherer there, by the way, with our fire against the Yamato, and we're kind of watching this guy. It looks like he's going to push forward. The Khabarovsk's torpedoes are not exactly what you would call spectacular. They've only got a 6-kilometer range. They're not especially fast, but they do hit very hard, and they're really, really, really stealthy. So if we get into range and this Yamato comes around the corner, we can probably catch him by surprise and remove the rest of his hit points with these danger pylons. Of course, he's not going to come around that corner. Perhaps he notices the cap is turning blue, and he thinks he might eat a face full of torpedoes if he rounds that little island, which he probably would, although, to be fair, I don't think we had enough range there, so those torpedoes are useless. But something much more useful, we took the cap. We took Bravo, we solo capped it, and now we're going to move on to Charlie. The friendly destroyer on that side of the map has perished, and if we take a look at the mini-map, all the capital ships, starting with the Yamato and whatever that is over there to the right, are not really all that close to the capture circle. In fact, aside from the Yamato, who I think is bow tanking toward the Charlie cap, the other battleship is moving away. This means that if we get into the Charlie cap at this point, there's really nothing that the enemy team has to counter us with. Obviously, they've got a gearing in there. He's shooting at our Yamato, who I'm pinging to get back, because there's no reason for the Yamato to sit there taking that fire. He should probably disengage and fire up a heel if he's got one. He is getting back, though. In any case, it's just the gearing in that cap. Even if he spots me, he really has no support to shoot at me. So that sort of puts me in a good position. And I've got the friendly aircraft carrier, who is in a division with Spartan, flying above me right now. He's going out there to spot the gearing, and he was telling me that as the stream was going on. I was, of course, keeping the stream audio in my one ear while playing the game, since I was on the same team as Spartan. No reason not to communicate with them in that way. Of course, if I had been on the enemy team, I would have muted it and not looked at the screen, because I'm not a dirty, filthy seal clubber, or stream sniper, not seal clubber. Whoops. In any case, maybe I am a little bit of a seal myself, because I just got clubbed by the Conqueror there for an awful lot of HP. But it's okay. The Conqueror might have good guns with great HE, but they only removed half of my hit points, and half of my hit points is good enough. Plus, I've got a heal working, and there's nothing that could possibly spot me, except for the aircraft carrier at this point. So it looks like we're going to be able to take this capture circle, and if we do, this will be the second capture circle this game that we have flipped solo, with basically no help from our teammates, just by evaluating the map and determining when is a good time to take this destroyer, which, as Spartan Elite43 correctly says, is not a very good cap contesting destroyer. When is the good time to take that destroyer into the cap? The answer is not within the first 5 minutes of the game. You need more intelligence data before you can make decisions like that. The Khabarovsk is just, at least if you play it the way I do, it's just not stealthy and not maneuverable enough to push in aggressively at the start. You really got to hang back, you got to observe the minimap, you got to see where are the enemy ships, particularly where are the destroyers, and you've got to be able to evaluate, can I get into the cap safely without being spotted and focused to death? If the answer is yes, then that is when you take the caps. In the Khabarovsk, you don't, in fact, have to take them within the first 5 minutes of the game. In fact, I think destroyer players as a whole, as a demographic, really need to abandon the idea that within the first couple minutes of the game, they need to instantly enter the capture circle and take it. Usually, when you instantly enter a capture circle in a game and you're facing a decent opponent in your destroyer, usually, you end up overextending, getting focused, and dying. You don't always have to take the capture circles within the first 5 minutes. Often it's a good idea to play around the capture circles and whittle down the enemy forces there before moving in and taking the capture circle after they've been cleared out. You can even do that after they've flipped the capture circle. Obviously, the Reds flipped Charlie in the beginning of the game pretty much immediately, and how well did that work out for them? Not very well at all. You don't have to flip the caps instantly when you load into a game. Ladies and gentlemen, you do have 15 minutes to play with. Use them all. Keep yourself alive till the end. And to do that, that often means not pushing into the cap straight away. Of course, you might find yourself in a situation where you're fighting a Minotaur. And if so, and you're playing the Khabarovsk, understand that you have the punching power to absolutely blap his citadel, and it would only take you about 3 salvos to do it. So you should definitely turn and get all the guns on target way before I did. And then maybe in a similar situation, you would have actually taken out the Minotaur. But as it stands, the Minotaur sunk me. Doesn't matter, though. We've already taken both Bravo and Charlie. We've done 151,000 damage, and it's only the Minotaur and the enemy carrier left. So we're going to finish this game with quite an impressive result, having solo capped 2 out of 4 of the caps in our destroyer, which, after all, is not a very good cap contesting destroyer. And the Khabarovsk isn't. It's not a very good cap contesting destroyer. It may not even be a very good destroyer by destroyer standards, at least classic destroyer standards, in the sense that it really can't fulfill the role of capping as easily as others can. But you know, it's still a fantastic destroyer nonetheless, and that's due to, frankly, its gun power, its speed, and its ability to get around the map. Even if you have trash concealment, even if you don't have very good torpedoes, you can still fulfill the role of a destroyer. You just have to approach it more carefully. You have to exercise some caution, you've got to study the map, and you've got to make the moves at the right time. Of course, you can still mess up like I did. I think it was a little bit of a misplay there against the Minotaur, not being able to take him out, but it's a misplay that ultimately doesn't matter. By this point in the game, I've done my job. The carrier has been demolished, and now it's just a matter of who is going to get the killing blow on this Minotaur, and that honor goes to the GK. The game ends with our glorious victory. We've already seen how much damage we did, but how did we do on the leaderboard? 3,300 base XP. I think I would call that a carry by anybody's standards. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.